I mean, she would wake me up at 2 in the morning sometimes, check my blood sugars, and from a very young age. And she was always very health conscious about the type of food she let us eat. I mean, we didn't get birthday cakes. We got things like birthday watermelons and stuff growing up.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Two Thumbs Up pod. It's called the Two Thumbs Up podcast, not the Toddcast. Dr. Todd here. I got one of my best buddies here, Winston Keate, who I actually call Wink. His brothers, who he has a number of brothers, and maybe we'll talk about some of that, call him Wink. So I'm also one of his brothers because I want to be.
That works.
And so I call him Wink as well. But welcome to the podcast, my friend.
Excited to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy running, doing all your stuff. So tell us a little bit about you, like what you love, what you do.
Well, I love a lot of things.
Yeah.
I love people. That's my favorite thing is people. I work in construction. I own my own company. Love doing that. I just started that at the beginning of this year.
Because I've known you a long time.
Yeah.
And Winston's the type of guy, he can do anything, actually. So, but I do know you love finish carpentry.
Yeah.
And is that your favorite? Because you've done a lot.
Finish carpentry and decks are my favorite.
So why do you love finish carpentry?
I've always loved clean lines. Like when I build something, like I'm very focused on making sure things are square, straight. Mm-hmm. And in finish carpentry, when it's done, it's easy to see the quality of work that I put in. It's like the feedback loop of, okay, is what I'm doing, is it going to show when I'm done? And in finish work, I get to see the results really quickly on the quality of work I'm doing.
So you're an artist.
Yes, in a sense.
Yeah, so that's artistry. I mean, to me, and people that can do that sort of thing, because I have yet to even come close to refining my skills at something like that. To me, that's artistry. So yeah. I love that. And I know you've done a lot of other things as well. But
tremendous amount of things.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I was born and raised in Salt Lake. I was 11. My dad moved his family up to northern Idaho, right on the Canadian border. I spent 6 years there and then moved to southern Utah, lived there for 5 years, and then North Dakota, back to Salt Lake, kind of all over the place.
So I know you've had some experiences with your health.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it. So you were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Yes.
At a certain age. What age was that?
I was 5 years old. 1990.
So what do you remember, maybe as a kid, 5? Do you have any recollection of that?
I remember the lead up to it. So I remember always feeling thirsty, like my energy was sapped, because I was a very energetic kid. I was very curious, always had my hands in something. Yeah. I used to think I was the angel child. My mom said I was always into mischief. But I remember feeling very just drained of energy. I remember being thirsty all the time. I couldn't stop going to the bathroom. And one night, I don't remember this part, but I remember going to sleep just feeling like garbage. And then I woke up, I was in the hospital. And my mom just says that I passed out, and she had no clue, so they rushed me to the emergency room. I remember waking up, and they had just told me that, yeah, you have type 1 diabetes, and then they kind of walked through that process.
Yeah, so childhood onset diabetes, type 1. And did they instantly start putting you on insulin and those types of things, or was there a build-up to that as well?
It, as good as I can remember, I remember them starting to give me shots right away. That was the scary part.
Yeah, the shots.
Yeah.
No one likes shots.
Yeah.
So, and you're now?
39.
You're 39, so you've been dealing with this for 34 years.
Yeah.
And then a little, because before you were diagnosed. So I love stories of people that have gone through health things, because my experience in just dealing with people for these number of years is that some of the greatest wisdom is gained when people walk through health, and I'm going to call it this because that's what the world calls it, health crises, right? And they can be very turn someone's life over, right? But I love to hear the experiences and the wisdom gained, as someone walks the beginning of the walk through that situation, and as they emerge from the other side and whatever that looks like, the wisdom gained and the gratitude and those types of things. And that's story after story after story that I talk about with people. It seems to me that the gratitude piece emerges at some point for the experience. Has that been true for you?
Absolutely. So I'm very grateful I had a mom that was willing to, I mean, she would wake me up at 2 a.m. sometimes, check my blood sugars, and from a very young age. And she was always very health conscious about the type of food she let us eat. I mean, we didn't get birthday cakes. We got things like birthday watermelons and stuff growing up. And
That's a good idea.
And so the transition from it wasn't difficult to not eat the sugary foods and things like that because she was already in that mindset. But to have her teach me how vital it was to take care of myself, so in the 34 years I've had diabetes, I've only been to the hospital twice because of my diabetes. Once when I was diagnosed, and then when I was about 9 years old, my blood sugar got really low and I went into a diabetic coma. But I've always been very clear with the people that I'm around that I have it. I mean, I've been embarrassed to talk about it a lot of times, especially as a teenager.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, to talk about, my experience with diabetes and for fear that people would think less of me. I always wanted to be accepted. And
what's that about, would you say? What was that about? Being accepted, not rejected?
I just wanted to be one of the cool kids, but that was the one limitation that I always put on myself.
Yeah.
Was with my diabetes, can I do that? I had to be real careful playing, games and stuff growing up that I didn't let my blood sugar get too low. And so I navigating that was a very interesting journey. But yeah, so just making the people that I'm with aware of it. My sweet wife she's been a godsend for me and taking care of it as well. She's always, hey, check your blood sugar. Or if I say something like, oh, I'm not feeling well, I'll say, well, what's your blood sugar doing? And just that simple reminder has been a huge blessing. And I've done it quite a bit different than most people. I'm doing my shots. I still do give myself the shot because it keeps me grounded in what I'm experiencing. I don't forget about it.
What do you mean by that?
It keeps me present with it. Like, I make sure in the morning I grab my insulin, and that's one of the first things. It keeps me present in my life with what I'm dealing with, so I don't forget about it.
So the type 1 diabetes has actually kept you more in living in the moments.
Yes.
Because, you feel things internally, metabolically, physiologically, yes?
Yep.
But also, you've learned to listen to actually how you feel.
Absolutely.
I mean, what's been your experience with others? Because I can tell you mine and myself, and the results of people not listening to that inner intuition. Hey, my blood sugar may be off. Because a lot of people have blood sugars that do this all the time. They may not be type 1 diabetic or type 2, but if they're unconscious to the feeling, we know what that creates.
Yeah.
Dis-ease, right?
Yep.
So it's allowed this type 1 diabetes has you've gained the wisdom of being in the moment with your body.
Yes, it's been a great reminder to be in the moment. I'm very conscious about the way I feel. I mean, I can even tell if my lips start to get dry or, oh, my blood sugar is getting high. And to just simple reminders like that because I've paid attention to it. And yes, it has its challenges along the way, but I'm extremely grateful for it because, number one, there's a lot of people in my family that have the same challenges with type 1 diabetes, specifically on my grandfather on my dad's side. And to see the struggles that they have with it because they're unwilling to give up certain things or unwilling to be present. Most people that know me would never guess that I have it because of how I carry myself. I'm very conscious about how I prep my day for it as well. If I'm going to go do something, I'll make sure, okay, I'm conscious about how much insulin I give me and the amount of time I'm going to have to eat or take care of myself. It keeps me present is really why I'm grateful.
You literally can take your whole day and sort of map it out because of this physiological metabolic gift you have been given. That's super. I mean, I actually love that because it teaches me something. I don't do that. I kind of just leave the house, and I feel like there's a lot more I could do consciously with my food, and I eat well, but I do love to fast. I fasted until 6 o'clock last night, but I love that part of my. But the truth is, I can be way more conscious about prepping my day with the nutrients that I give myself.
Yeah. And quite frankly, also, the doctors a lot of times will have, okay, these are the foods you can eat. What I've learned about my body is there's certain foods that don't, like people say, oh, eat some apples, your blood sugar is low. Something about apples, they don't bring my blood sugar up very well. Like I could sit there and eat a whole bag of apples and still be waiting, but a single banana will do more for me.
Interesting.
So I've also found the foods that actually work really well for me.
And that could vary from type 1 diabetic to type 1 diabetic. You've kind of done that self-discovery.
Yeah. Yeah. And fruit is really, when my blood sugar gets low, fruit is my go-to. I love the idea of eating something that's not only grown. I love nature. To me, everything that's here to support us from nature. So I keep as much of the food that I can that I use for my blood sugars natural.
Yeah. So Winston and Brooke, who, we'd love to go visit their backyard farm, and they have honeybees and they have a massive garden. There's chickens. You just recently got some new types of chickens you told me about.
Yeah, we got lots of chickens.
But you got some specific ones.
They're called Saramas. They're the world's smallest chickens. I
don't know why that makes me laugh.
When they're full grown, they'll be about 6 to 8 inches tall.
I have not. I'm coming over. I'm coming over to see those chickens.
They're still babies.
I got to tell a real quick story. So a number of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, Winston and Brooke, you've got some bees. And I've always wanted to go, put on the suit and do that. So Winston and I, a couple years ago, we did the smoke thing and we had on our bee suits, and I'll never forget that experience. That was super fun for me. Let's repeat it one of these days. It was.
Yeah.
I love the story you told me a couple weeks ago about the beehive that you went out in Eagle Mountain.
Yeah.
And you want to tell that one real quick?
Well, yeah. So Brooke and I have always wanted to be beekeepers, and then we also want to be bee catchers. So if someone has a swarm coming into their yard, we would love to go catch them, because bees are actually really amazing creatures.
Sure.
So we wanted to, if that opportunity arose, we wanted to go experience what that was like. I mean, we've watched tons of YouTube videos on it, but we had never done it.
Yeah.
And so someone posted on our city page out where we live, hey, there's this swarm. What should I do with it? And I commented on there, hey, I would love to come and catch it if you're open to that. And yeah. So this was 9:30 at night. We show up at their house at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm all geared up. I have the hive that we're going to sweep all the bees into, because you use a really soft bristle broom, and you can just sweep them right into the new hive. Well, I'm up on a ladder. I'm 15-ish feet in the air, and I'm sweeping them into the hive. But what I did not do is I was wearing my jeans. I had my bee suit on, but I didn't tuck my bee suit into my shirt. So they were going below and flew up, and I got stung 20 times. But it was really amazing because, they are painful. But I also was like, one thing I know about bees is the calmer I am, the calmer they are. Yeah. I'm there disturbing their peace.
Sure.
But we got them, and we went over, and these are literally the most calm bees I've ever seen. So in the moment, they were like coming at me.
Yeah, leave
but now they've settled right in. And when we built our home, we built our home specifically to support bees. We have early blooming flowers. We have mid-season. We have some that bloom all year, and we did that on purpose.
And little water sources around.
Yeah. Well, and I created a little water fountain that they can always come and drink off. So it's just been a fun journey. And if you ever want to relax, put on a bee suit and go listen to a beehive and watch them.
I love that.
Makes no sense, but it works.
Well, that's good news, right?
Yeah.
It's like this feeling of like, oh, they're so, that just that hum, that om, that hum. It's like this beautiful, grounding, natural experience.
Yeah.
So Winston, he's elk hunter. He's going on the archery hunt here soon. But you've had a number of things even as a child. You had type 1 diabetes, and then you had a farming accident.
It wasn't a farming accident.
Was it? Yeah.
So when I was younger, my dad, this is when we lived in North Idaho, my dad managed a post mill. We would build wooden tree stakes. A lot of trees, well, you'll see wooden stakes holding the trees up. They were 2 inches around, and I was down assisting him with that, and I got my hand caught in it, and it caught my arm and basically skinned my arm. I was 14 at the time. It happened on December 27th of 1999.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah. A little bit of background. I grew up in a polygamous community, and in this community, we were taught that 2000 was the world was done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Y2K. Remember?
Yeah.
Melanie still makes fun of me because we stockpiled toilet paper and I filled every bathtub with water. Anyway, go ahead.
And so I was in the hospital at this time, and when this happened, all it did was skin me. It didn't damage any muscles. And so it looks like a burn because they pulled grafts off my thighs and they skin grafted that. But a really funny experience I had with that, and it still cracks me up to this day. It was the night, December 31st, 1999, and I was on a lot of pain medication while I was there.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember waking up, and the clock said 11:59, and I was like, "Oh crap! The world's about to end." And so I closed my eyes, what felt like a long time, and then I opened my eyes again, and the clock still says 11:59, and I'm looking up at the wall, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, So then I fall asleep for what feels like another couple hours, and I wake up, and it still says 11:59, and I'm like, okay, the world must have ended, this is deja vu. And then the power flipped out. I was in Spokane, Washington at the hospital. And I'm like, okay, something's going on. And so I focused on staying awake, and the second hand was still moving, but because I was on a lot of morphine, what I think happened is I just drifted in and out of consciousness or something 3 times in that minute, because when I focused, and then I watched it strike midnight and nothing happened. So
I remember, Y2K, what a strange, Well, you had look, you emerged from that.
Yeah.
And have you had some difficulty with your arm, or after it's completely?
None whatsoever. I mean, the only time I even notice it's there is when it gets cold. I can feel the scar tissue get tight, but it hasn't affected any of my movement. I mean, it's really given me a great appreciation for. I remember one time a conversation we were in a training together, and you said something like, "How often do you express gratitude for something as simple as your lungs, legs, things that I've taken for granted so often in my life?" This experience has taught me the value to appreciate everything I have. For instance, I grew up, had terrible vision, but I'd been told all my life I couldn't get LASIK. And then one day I decided to go check for myself. I got LASIK, and I see a whole new world because I took the initiative of myself. And just to appreciate everything that I have, I mean, gratitude is my favorite thing. I live my life as a grateful man.
I know you do, and that's another reason I love you, and consider you one of my brothers. And so, there is family in life. We have a family, but then there's a chosen family, and you're in that with me, and so I'm grateful for that, and all your wisdom, the things you do, you actually inspire me with a lot of things you do, and I've told you guys this, you and Brooke. We have, before we started the podcast, we were actually talking about archery hunting, and it's something I would love to do. And I know you do that. And there is you shared with me before we started the podcast this morning what you love about it, and why it's such a, and you literally archery hunted for 18 years. And last year is the first time you got an elk during archery hunt. Yes?
Yep.
And so what is it about that you love? Because most people, bro, you go 18 years. And it's like, yeah, maybe I'll do something else. But for you, it's beyond actually getting an animal.
Yeah.
Tell if you're open to share about that.
Absolutely. I didn't grow up hunting. It's something, because like I said, I grew up in the city here in Salt Lake, and then when my dad moved our family to northern Idaho, a lot of the kids, I actually went to school for 3 years in Canada because it was the closest school to our home, so he got us school visas. But a lot of my classmates loved to hunt, and so I would go out with them, but it was never something I felt like I wanted to do. But I went and did my hunter's ed and got that done, and I started rifle hunting up there, and I got a bunch of deer. But then coming down to Utah had a completely different set of rules with hunting than Idaho. And really the only way to hunt was either draw out or archery hunt.
Yeah.
And so I had some friends of mine that bought me a bow, and it's difficult to describe, but when I'm out there with a bow, I mean, at 150 yards, then the hunt starts, but the odds of seeing something are quite low. They say that with elk, archery hunters are successful 10% of the time. That's very low odds to even, how many people are going to go do something knowing that the odds are there's a 10% chance you're going to harvest an animal.
90% chance you're going to go home empty.
Yeah. And so knowing those, I was like, okay, so I'm going to appreciate the whole experience, the late nights, the early mornings, I would always assist my friends with packing out elk and things like that. And every time I would go assist someone with, I could just see the joy in their soul was full. And I was really curious about that. At this time, I mean, there was a point in my life when I stopped even believing in a higher power or God or any of that. But when I would experience these gentlemen, it was like their soul was alive. It's 3 a.m, it's cold, raining, we're dirty, but we're packing these elk out. And it was like a connection to all that is, to Mother Earth, and the spirit of the animal. And that's something that I've always resonated with, was the spirit of the animal. And so then I was like, okay, so I'm going to get serious about hunting. And so, like I said, I hunted elk for 18 years. Had many opportunities, and obviously a lot of them were mistakes on my part, and maybe I drew back and I bumped the trigger before I pulled clear back, and the arrow falls down, and I watch the animal run away.
Welcome to life.
Yeah. And so, but I was like, the whole experience is enjoyable to me. I enjoy the late nights. I enjoy the early mornings. I enjoy getting back where I'm so tired, I don't even want to talk about, I just want to go to sleep. And a lot of times I would find myself just dreaming about the whole experience of the day. And there was never a moment, even when it was tough, where I look back and say, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I hadn't have done that. Because last year when I was finally able to get the elk, believe it or not, it was the easiest hunt I've ever done. Earlier last year, my brother and I were up on this mountaintop looking down in these canyons with a spotting scope, and we saw some elk way down there, and I got real excited. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go after them. So I threw on my packed my bow down, and I went way down, and I was about 80 yards from these elk, and then there's this single-track motorbike trail, and these motorbikes come flying up, and the elk scatter, and I was like, wow, that was cool. I was so close. But then I turn around and look up, and I'm like, holy cow, that's a hike. And, I have my pack on, and I wasn't planning on just going down into the down into the bottom of the valley, but it was about a 2,400 height difference from where we were to where I was at.
2,400 feet you had to crawl out of.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, here I go. But on the way back, I pushed myself as hard as I've ever pushed myself, and my left knee started to really give me some pain. And it almost felt like I stretched a tendon in that, because I was always side hilling it and had, a 50-pound pack on it. It felt like 150 pounds by the end of the day. And so my knee was bugging me a little bit. When I'd go out and hike, it would always feel okay until I stopped. And so on the day that I actually got my elk, I didn't want to go out. I was hurting. I was like, but then the conversation I had with myself was, well, I can still go out there. Why would I complain that it might be a little painful to go out there, but if I don't go out, I'm for sure not bringing home any elk. And so I ended up doing it. And the moment, to give a little background on it, I was sitting in this tree stand, like an old one. I mean, it's probably been there for 50 years, and it had a metal bar. And when I drew my bow back, I didn't pay attention to that. And when I shot, my cam on my bow, which is the bottom module, hit that. And so my arrow didn't go where I figured I was aiming. And I was like, crap, well, there went my shot. But I climbed down, and there's this meadow, and there was one out there. It was, I believe that I don't outsmart the elk. It's almost like this, they are giving me an opportunity.
I love that, yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've had an opportunity, and it just hasn't worked out. But this one was like everything was scripted for me. And the second it happened, I actually started to cry. You can imagine 18 years of going after something that I feel, elk are one of my favorite animals. And to have that moment of like, wow, finally, and I was so grateful. I actually went over, and I've really connected with the power of honoring. And I went and knelt down next to this elk after I'd found it, because I had to track it for a minute. And when I found it, I knelt down on the ground, and I put my hand on its heart, and I said, thank you so much. And I expressed my gratitude that it would provide sustenance for not only me, but my friends, my family. We've shared a little with you. And that's why I feel like it was like everything came together, and that elk's like, hey, here's an opportunity for you. What will you do with it?
That gives me goosies. That's beautiful.
And so I did, and like I said, I cried for about 5 minutes, just so grateful. And it's deepened my connection to the experience of the hunt. We don't go out and catch things. That's not that fun. I don't know any hunter that wants to go out on opening day and be done with their hunt.
Yeah.
And so I also have a deep, deep appreciation for animal life. As you know, I mean, you see the stuff that we do around our home to take care of the animals. Like the other day, I got a picture of a monarch butterfly on. Like I just love wildlife.
It's interesting you share that story, and it's sort of a metaphor for life. It's interesting how we go through all of these things, health related, relationship related, business related, all of these things. And it's, when you get 40, and now I'm beyond 40, I look back and go, oh my gosh, there's been a lot of hard times. What my brain would say is hard. But I look back and go, oh my gosh, those are the highlights.
Yeah.
And because of perseverance, 18 years of hunting elk with a bow, because of perseverance and dedication and commitment to whatever it is, business, relationships, one's health, bow hunting, all of those things, and from the perspective you gain of gratitude for that experience, that walk, that journey, to me, that's a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
And it correlates to so many different aspects. And I love that you see that. And it's like, no, I will not give up on myself.
Yeah.
I will not give up on my experience. To me, I see the epitome of trust there. I actually see the epitome of trust when people walk through health things, because it's kind of a type 1 diabetes, or someone is diagnosed with something significant, and it's almost like, okay, it's where the beautiful, what I call the autonomic, the trust, the faith, the autonomic nervous system is what we call it internally, but there's something autonomic going on here that instantly, when that happens, trust emerges.
Yeah.
And I love how Dr. Dwayne Dyer, who's one of my best buddies, he's passed a few years now, but I love the man. He talks about the autonomic, or the process, or nature, Ziraten, right? We've talked about Ziraten, that which happens of itself. The autonomic of it all, he actually calls, Dr. Dyer, unconditional love.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, the journey, the experience of being cold, getting up early, 18 years of no success, quote unquote, what the ego would say. But look at the result, look at the learning, look at the experience, look at the gratitude. And so I love when you tell me these stories, I'm like, yes, that's the secret sauce. That's the autonomic. That's that's the process. That's God.
Yeah. That's what I feel.
I love it.
Well, even, like I said earlier, you talked about, your patients sometimes, if they can't walk, the one thing that they're the most grateful for are their legs, But when I talk to myself that way, and I express gratitude to my lungs for continuing to fill when I don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's a surge within me when I express that gratitude out loud. Like when I drive by myself, I do that a lot. I was like, what am I grateful for? And it's funny when I start to do that, it's like this roller or this avalanche, it just comes easier and easier. And when I do that, I feel within my own body, when I express gratitude for my lungs, it's like my lungs feel proud, like they stand taller. And it's such a cool experience to be aware of. My life's journey has been it's been eventful, and I'm grateful to have met people along the way. Can I share something with you?
Yeah.
So I was talking with her earlier. The first time I met you, you were the first man that I ever met that was honest but were kind about it. It never felt like you were attacking who I was, and I'm so grateful to have men like that in my life. In today's world, let's show up for each other as honest. We can be kind, yet gentle and powerful, and thank you for always being that beacon of light for me to see, hey, I can do it this way, and especially among the hunting crowd, we're pretty rough and tumble most of the time. Yeah. So I'm grateful to you for always honoring who I am. And I talked earlier about, I love the process of honoring the journey. And you've been a huge part in me waking up to that process. And so thank you to you for always being the gentleman.
Oh, thank you, brother. I love you. You're my chosen brother. So super grateful for that too. And thanks for sharing today.
Yeah.
And the reason I love these podcasts is because of you, of people that come and share their experience and emerge through all of it. I mean, because we could talk other situations. I mean, if we had 3 hours, we could talk, right? And so to emerge grateful, to emerge wise, to emerge, I was thinking about this morning. It's like love through all of the chaos that the ego would say is chaos, or frustration, or resentment, or anger, or loss, or health, all of these things. Love always emerges triumphant. Love always emerges, and love can look like gratitude, trust. It can look like compassion. It can look like empathy. All these beautiful things. But love is this beautiful elixir of life, and you see it. I see it. You experienced it when you walked into a meadow, and there stood the elk, and the energy and the feeling you got was in gratitude. The elk says, "In gratitude, I give myself unto you."
Exactly.
And to me, gives me goosebumps. It's super profound, and my intention is that the world may see that no matter what comes, there's something happening here that's autonomic, that Dr. Dyer calls unconditional love. And my intention and my prayer is that humankind begins again to remember that.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful remembering, and to hold the space that you hold, and I know your sweet Brooke holds, is bringing that remembering back to humanity.
Yeah.
And these experiences and these stories matter, and they could be just nothing to you, but to others, that's the beauty. That's the story, and as you share it, you actually realize how profound and beautiful too. So
absolutely, yeah. It's awesome to express it out loud in this type of setting too, because I mean, how many people have I actually shared? I've shared it with my wife, handful, and a couple of my brothers, but
I'm like, wow. So thank you.
And one thing I would ask anyone that watches this, be someone that uplifts people in the world. I mean, there's so many people that tear people down. Tell someone you love why you love them, not just that you love them. Yeah. Share with them the reasons, and it may brighten someone's day. And
that's the truth.
So,
love you, my brother. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming on the Two Thumbs Up podcast. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Be safe.